Prosperity by Rix Militz. This volume contains the most important knowledge man can possess, i.e., knowledge of the power to control his own destiny. In his own life and that of many others, the author has seen the demonstration of this power. The reader has but to follow the instructions herein laid down to reach that condition of realization which Jesus knew when he affirmed, "I and my Father are one." The way is easy. Its principle is truth. Its incentive is love. Its result is life more abundantly. That there may be understanding, in Part 1, the philosophy of unity has been elucidated and verified by the law of vibration. That this principle of unity and the law of vibration may be applied to daily thinking and living, in Part 2, the principle of suggestion is unfolded. This is an ever-present and an ever-active principle. He who accepts, understands, and applies it attains mastery over all conditions. This principle is the basis of many metaphysical movements of the day, and when intelligently obeyed, gives one all the power that any healer possesses. That the reader may attain this power, methods of thinking and affirming are scattered through these pages. At the close are affirmations for practice that all may, through a trained will, learn the art of living. The end and aim of this book is to help the reader to self-control. No perception of truth ever gave man such power as does this of self-suggestion, or, as we will term it, affirmation. It is the discovery that thought is force, and that man can control, in its objective expression, this infinite subconscious life, which is the real man, the ego, and thus control fate. All the mystery of the ancient and modern schools is cleared away from the subject, and all the misconceptions of theology are avoided. As Darwin investigated, and as Spencer reasoned, upon objective phenomena the effects, so have I tried to investigate and reason upon the cause, the subjective man. The spirit that has inspired me is that of affirmation, all is good. I have tried to let it manifest in me under that new commandment, that ye love one another. Part 1. The Science and Philosophy of Life. Unity. Unity of nature is now the basic thought in science and in the new philosophy. The ancient and child man thought duality. This conception, which from earliest time has dominated the conceptions of man, has passed from the mind of the present thinker. With it must pass all the old conceptions of man and nature. With these conceptions must also ultimately pass the customs, laws, and theologies based upon the unscientific, primitive conception of nature as duality. This conception of unity, as opposed to that of duality, is destined by evolution to work a revolution whose import it is now impossible to overestimate. Half science. Our science has not been half science, even since Darwin and Spencer gave it the key to all knowledge which comes to the soul from the external consciousness by observation and reasoning. Darwin gave man his first true conception of the world without himself. The survival, in greater or lesser degree, of the idea of dualism in the scientific mind and in philosophic speculation has so colored investigation that constantly there has arisen from it the idea of limitation, division, antagonism, contest, struggle, etc. This conception of duality has either been present or has been introduced as explanation in much scientific reasoning, and in most independent minds it has at least been recognized as a fact of nature. This conception is so false that the new and coming philosophy will bear the same relationship to the old as the child does to the man. Revolution. It is safe to say that this conception of an all-pervading unity is destined to work a change in thought and life greater than that wrought by Copernicus when he changed the front of the universe, or by Jesus when he lifted philosophy from force to love. Darwin and his co-workers not only threw miracle and supernatural into law, but they did more. They destroyed duality, and through this thought has been constantly permeating the common mind. It has been overlooked by philosophers. But common sense has joined unconsciously with the demonstrations of science and made mind and matter into one unity. The result of this can be only dimly foreseen, but this I prophecy in future man will look within himself and not without, as now, for knowledge and direction. He will find the universe in himself, and not as now himself in the universe. This is the greatest change a front man has ever made. It is revolution, but until he makes it, he is neither true nor free. Tendency of thought. This tendency of thought is seen in every new work in philosophy and in every new deduction of science. Few are there who dare to follow out to the end logical conclusions or are free to give the world the clearest light of their reasoning. Professor W. J. Powell of the Government Ethnological Bureau has recently published a work which is destined to rank high in the future for its insight and its reasoning on the oneness of nature. Professor McGee, in reviewing the book in The Forum, says of Professor Powell, accepting the observed unity of matter and motion, Powell is able to escape that besetting dualism that has clung to the human mind ever since the Sylvan savage first noticed front and rear, this side and that side. This observed unity is the basis of reasoning and of life in soul culture. Soul culture is therefore that coming thing which is neither religion nor science, but is the union of the two, soul being the religious side and culture being the scientific side of the thought. Its first affirmation is unity. This affirmation is constantly repeated until it becomes the instinctive thought to solve all problems of life. One something. All is one something. The name is of no consequence. I would not quarrel with one who would say Brahm, God, force, or any other term that to him meant unity. I find it more acceptable to say all is spirit. What spirit is can be answered only by saying spirit is all, and all is to consciousness only differing manifestations of spirit. Duality. There are not two forces, two antagonistic somethings, warring in nature for mastery. These two things have heretofore been in the mind balanced. Some of these warring mental twins are God and devil, angels and demons, men and women, spirit and body, mind and matter, matter and motion, matter and spirit, good and evil, health and disease, life and death, as separate entities. These are two only to the child man, who reasons from appearances, but to him who looks at the cause, they will ever be manifestations of the one. There are no double standards. One reigns forever, and that one is mind, or spirit, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Causing one, there can only be harmony. There can be no antagonism, no struggle, no contest, no evil, no wrong, no progress. There can only be manifestation of the one in harmony and in purpose, or it would be self-destructive, and there would be in time be not even one. The one manifests in many million ways, but they are all harmony, all good and right, or they are all discord and evil and wrong. To cause the one, these names are not given, but they are names man gives to effects. They are very readily transferable and are transferred so constantly that no standard as to good, etc., has ever been found permanent among any people, and never one for the race. The only one ever held in theory is the one in all the theologies, which is the belief that the supreme power can do no wrong. But this has rarely descended to practical application. Yet, Its evidences how dimly man has seen, but how truly has he ever felt the fact which science today demonstrates, that the universe is one energy. Thus, in the new philosophy, these terms mean nothing when applied to nature, but are significant when applied to man himself. They mean in him effects of the one cause. They are names for his convenience alone. They mean nothing as to cause itself. Fate. Man is thus his own fate, inasmuch as he has a power to choose, to use, and to name, and as fast as he learns his power to control the manifestations of the one, he shall decide how and when this power shall, and manifestation, serve him. Thus, in future, man, instead of being slave or creature to an outside power, as in all the past, shall be that power, and manifest as he chooses, shall make all other manifestations obey him instead of obeying as now. He shall no longer fear a God outside himself, but reverence himself as a manifestation of the indivisible God. He shall not only choose how he shall himself manifest, but he shall now decide how all other manifestations shall affect him, or whether they shall affect him at all. And he shall control all manifestations of a less pitch and vibration than his own, be they manifestations known as heat or human thought. He will by choice adapt manifestations to himself, or himself to vibrations, until he finds his ideal of happiness, or, what is the same, until every manifestation of the one gives him pleasure. Man. All reasoning will hereafter be from man, and from man as center of the universe, and from the universe only as the circumference of man. It is with man alone, then, that the soul culture deals. Man is to us the representative of all. In him we find all, and in studying him we study all. If science wants to use the term force, let it be understood that it is not the same to the soul culture as the term I use, spirit. Not yet has spirit to science the same meaning as force. Therefore, spirit is used here. Both are terms for that which is, the I am that I am. For truth knows only unity, the one that inhabiteth eternity. Man is, therefore, all the rest is. Without the ear, no sound; without the eye, no light; without the nerve, no sensation. Hence, without man, no anything; without man, no God, no one. Man is all.
Logic. This is logic. Dare we accept it and live it? Soul culture says yes. Can we demonstrate our logic to be the truth? Soul culture does. Hence the about face that must come in science. Where it now looks outside man to vibration, it will look within and declare sensation to be all. For despite learned libraries, all that is known is sensation. When man is wise, he will study only sensation, for sensation is to man all. Where man now knows only in part, all will then be open to him. Where he now sees through a glass darkly, he will then, as spirit, see cause face to face. How? By recognizing faculties in himself that allay him with cause, by recognizing himself as part of the indivisible one. In fact, through his recognition of oneness with spirit, he will declare himself spirit, and hence regard himself as cause. Nothing comes except by evolution, and as the faculties we now manifest have been gradually developed because the soul pushed them out, and then they have been cultivated, so have the psychic faculties by which we take hold on cause instinctively made themselves manifest. Now we have only to be equally wise in cultivating them. As our ancestors have been cultivating eye and hand, so must we cultivate these psychic faculties, and by thus becoming a conscious factor in our own evolution, become soon consciously one with unity. Matter. This intellectual position ignores entirely the thought of physical man. Since matter and motion are one, man cannot be two, i.e., matter and motion. If matter is, then physical man is. If motion is, then man is motion. Therefore, let us be logical and say, all is matter, hence man is matter, or say all is motion, hence man is motion, spirit. Both physical and spiritual, man cannot be. Science has decided this forever. There is only one motion. Matter is only a form of motion. So is heat, motion. Matter is only a form of motion. So is heat. So are the other so-called physical forces. By telepathy, thought and emotion have been demonstrated by motion. Therefore, no longer can man be thought of as a physical being.
Evolution. Here is the key to the coming evolution. This man of unity explains the vagaries, sophistries, mysticisms of Christian Science, Theosophy, and kindred movements. Their teachers perceive this truth dimly, but lacking the scientific spirit, they have become blinded by the excess of light. Science will explain the manifestations of all these as it has explained those with which it has already dealt, and will find the one force behind all. That force man can know and master. Gods, angels, Mahatmas, spirits, if they exist, are either human or of human creation. Above man there can be nothing, for beyond spirit conscious of its own existence, Hegel's definition of man, nothing is possible. Man may manifest to infinity. Some man well developed may show himself to one less developed, and he who sees may say, God, Mahatma, etc. But what of that? What he is, I am. Not Eddyism. To declare that man is not physical is as far from the Eddy folly of saying, you have no body,
As it would have been when Copernicus said the sun stands still to have said there is no earth. We have body as we have thought, and even the most strenuous Eddyite will think. But both body and thought are manifestations of force, and only differ as heat and light differ, in pitch, length, and speed of vibration. To this conception of nature are all these various systems of divine science, Christian Science, and other more or less true philosophies bringing the common mind. They are John's, some of them are not clad even in the skins and camel's hair of truth, but all crying in a wilderness of materialistic thinking, prepare ye the way. And lo, here comes the Messiah of science saying, I am unity. Sensation. Sound, light, heat, electricity, magnetism, phosphorescence, X-ray, chemical affinity, and other known forms of force are now known to be one, differing only in rates of vibration. Therefore must we, in this thought of unity, now study man in regard not only body, but thought, love, hate, sorrow, sexual passion, and all other emotions as forms of the one energy, differing only in the rate of vibration. That is, we have to study only the effect of vibration upon self, that is, study sensation. Force. As force and as manifestation of force, man can be intelligently studied as have been the recognized forces of science and their effects. And as man has learned to control those for his benefit, so can he learn to control this force which is himself. He as force manifests as thought, emotion, and psychic power. And he has interrogated nature and, by experiment, learned to weigh, measure, and control what he calls physical force. He can, by experiment, learn to consciously use and control this force called psychic or spiritual. He is now almost entirely unconscious of it, and it uses him instinctively as once did electricity. As he now uses one and is master, he can use the other and be master of self. Intelligent use. To learn to do voluntarily and consciously what he is now doing involuntarily and unconsciously, i.e., manifesting life, is now the field of human achievement. I predict that when once man has found the way, he will have no use for all the present cumbrous machinery called science, nor for much of the present mechanical or motive powers. Occult manifestations of the one power will do all that is now done and more, with less labor, cost of friction than is possible even with liquid air. Chalk marks don't draw cars, once said a railroad man, but we are much nearer to the time when the manifestation of force less tangible than chalk marks will draw cars than was the possibility of lightning drawing them when Franklin drew it from the clouds, or when there was the possibility of wireless telegraphy. Chinese used powder in play centuries before Christian nations used it to kill, so Hindu jugglers use occult forces today, but the Anglo-Saxon will use them in work. I believe the Anglo-Saxon is the coming man who will not only conquer the world, but will also conquer the near but unseen realm of psychic power. Spirit. As spirit, to be edu-coed, drawn out educated, is man in the new thought. Man is spirit with unlimited power of manifestation. As the recognition of man as soul and body has led to the present development, until now he finds himself limited in manifestation by this dual conception of man and nature. Even so, by this idea of unity of nature and of man as spirit, will he be freed. He can then manifest without limitation and will thus usher in the new civilization waiting just ahead of us. We are what we think. All that has, in this thought of duality, been affirmed of man is false when he is considered in this thought of unity. Facts will not change, but our mental attitudes respecting them do change. This will virtually change to us all things, for facts are to us what we think them to be. This applies even to one fact that makes all other facts possible. That one fact is ourselves. We are in manifestation what we think we are. Therefore, if we think we are body and mind, we shall manifest as body and mind. If we think we are worms of the dust, we shall live dust. If we think we are gods, as we are, we shall live as gods. Thus will this thought of the universe and of man as unity, as spirit, work a greater revolution in life's manifestation than was ever wrought before any discovery, invention, or philosophy. Preparation. He who would take up the study of man as spirit must be willing to lay aside all preconceived opinions of man and nature, forget all science has said except this thought of unity, for unity is the only fact, except the law by which it manifests, evolution, that is of any practical benefit to him. In this study of man, he is to ignore all present thought of body, thinking of it as only a manifestation of spirit, as the materialized clothing of spirit. In this thought, all I have said and may say is true under old thought of duality. All I have said or may say is false. This mental attitude is the one indispensable requisite. One may obtain facts in the supposed realm of matter while he is repugnant to them, but in the physical realm, to recognize facts, he must be receptive, otherwise he is like the blind man seeking to be convinced of color. Vibration. To the soul culturist, all thought of duality of essence has passed away, as have the myths of the Middle Ages, and he recognizes only a duality of manifestation as cause and effect. To him, in his relation to the without, the external universe, there is only one cause, vibration. This vibration is the only possible manifestation of unity. In himself, he knows but one effect, sensation. Sensation is the only possible manifestation of unity in him. This manifestation we call life. Sensation. As the rates of vibration vary, so do the sensations vary. As the possible number of different vibrations is infinite, so the possible number of sensations is infinite. Man, then, is infinite in possibility here and now. He has only to develop his power to recognize sensations, and of the many million vibrations that are constantly impinging upon him, to choose those to which he will respond and those which he will harness to do his work. Emerson's favorite saying may yet be true in mechanics: hitch your wagon to a star. Man will learn to recognize, to reproduce, and to enjoy those sensations he chooses, and will learn to ignore those which are to him unpleasant. He will thus become his own fate and destiny. The New Man. The new man will have no senses, but he will be sensation. He will not be limited to five senses, but will constantly increase his recognition of sensation, and thus become more sensitive. He will, in the ages to come, find himself responsive to every vibration in space. Then he will know all. A textbook on physics, up to date, now in use in our colleges, gives this definition of heat. Heat is either a sensation or that which produces a sensation. This is a definition that could be given of everything that man feels and of every feeling. It is true, the author told more than he intended. Everything external to man is that which produces a sensation, and everything within him is a sensation.
Definition by physics. This is all the definition physics gives us of the phenomena of nature. We can say of air, water, electricity, light, etc., that they are sensations in man, and that they are that which produces these sensations. But really, the author could have said, heat is in man a sensation made by vibrations of a certain wavelength and speed. This would also be true of everything else. He would have to go farther yet and give the length and speed of the wave. This would help the intellect to grasp the idea of heat. But the man knows by feeling what is beyond every possible definition. Heat is sensation. The child knows it by feeling, and the scientist knows no more. Where is the place to study heat, in stove or in man? Without man, there is no heat. To one under proper suggestion, there is none. Again, the hypnotic subject under suggestion is burned to a blister by a cold coin. Where is heat? We answer, in sensation. Thought can as well produce sensation as can those vibrations which science recognizes, for thought is also a vibration. Now let science revise her definitions and her conclusions. Finer vibrations. Not with the ordinary vibrations caught by science does soul culture deal. It deals with those which science has not yet caught, and with those that can burn with cold steel, with those that enable the surgeon to amputate without either anesthesia or pain or blood or inflammation, with those that carry messages from mind to mind without wire or battery, and with those that enable lovers to enjoy a communion, each with each, though they are at antipodes.
These vibrations produce sensations as palpable to the one able to recognize them as are those of heat and cold. All knowledge possible. Thus it is that all knowledge is open to man, not by the development of new senses, but by learning to recognize sensation as all of life to him, and by distinguishing those beyond the limit of the five senses. He will thus come to the fulfillment of the prophecy of the psalmist and have conscious dominion over all things. This is now seen in possibility. It is the object of soul culture to lead man intelligently to this, his own. Race sensitiveness. The Anglo-Saxon race is growing more sensitive and, as a result, is manifesting psychic powers to a marked degree. Inspiration is poured out in all directions as never before during the historic period. Invention, discovery, research are in evidence, while literature of all kinds comes in floods, and from pulpit and platform the divine afflatus pours in tremendous streams. everybody feels able to write or declaim. It is the developing power of man to feel the finer vibrations, and though he does not know the reason and does not understand the power, yet, as he has instinctively obeyed the coarser ones, so is he instinctively obeying these. We thus account for the medium, the healer, and the psychic.
It is thus we have our geniuses and our abnormalities, like Blind Tom. They are all acting as aspen leaves act in the wind under the finer vibrations of unity. Diseases and survival. Because of this sensitiveness, there is an increase of disease and diseases, especially nervous diseases. They will increase until we learn how to control these finer forces. The struggle for life has now been transferred to the psychic plane, and those who cannot live under the intense strain on the organism caused by this increased sensitiveness must die off, leaving the hardier ones to keep up the stock. Saviors. For this reason, there is a demand from the race instinct for saviors. In supplying this demand, they come in droves, each with varying perceptions of truth. The regular MDs already fear for their trade, and it's going to go before the incoming tide of clairvoyants, magnetic healers, scientists of many kinds, and last of all,
For suggestive therapeutics. These are all natural results of increased sensitiveness. Nature always balances her manifestations. With the illness due to increased sensitiveness, relief comes in methods of healing adapted to that sensitiveness. As bleeding went out with the hardy pioneer age that could stand it, in came milder systems, and finally, these came that discard medicine. Through use of nature's inner forces, man is not only healed of disease, but is made positive to unpleasant sensations. You do not feel the prick of the pin, says the hypnotist. So says the intelligent healer, you do not respond now to the vibrations of pain. As you will not see that which is unpleasant or hear that which is discordant, so you will not feel that which is painful. You have within your control the power of sensation. You can feel only what you will. Progress. The progress of civilization depends now not on the arts and sciences, not on schools or churches, but on attaining the knowledge and mastery of these finer vibrations. These psychic manifestations often produce some disturbance in the body, causing one to depart from the ordinary customs and manners. This causes some philosophers to cry, degeneracy.
some peculiar mental conditions cause others to cry, insanity is on the increase, or some peculiarity of conduct causes the cry, crime is on the increase, while the cause is only an increase of psychic sensitiveness. The race is, at the close of the cycle, taking another step forward. Could one of the present croakers have seen the first eye that blinked at the sun and died from excess of sensation, but dying, prophesies the eye of man, he would have said of that individual specimen of the species, degenerate. Could the medical professions that now cry fraud and deterioration in view of many of the isms of today have stood by the first man that made a bow and seen how, by confinement and labor, he had changed from the rest of the tribe, they would have recommended change of climate and said, the race is going physically and morally backward, when in fact it was going ahead, outgrowing the conservative sight. Law. If some of the present over-anxious and meddling moral reformers who, failing to suppress vice and to regulate morals by law, are now trying to prevent the blessings of hypnotism from becoming known, could have foreseen the primitive man lay off the skin of the animal he had worn, they would have exclaimed, immoral! The race is becoming too vile to live. Yet, through similar changes has the race passed. The manifestations of unity through humanity are progressive, despite prognostications of evil and decay. The race will pass safely through this change from instinctive action to intelligent and consciously predetermined action, and thus will dethrone
Every absentee God and enthrone unity within. It will defy all law by being itself law. Conduct. In all these changes, the ego is manifesting more and more of its own infinity. The ego power of perceiving what is gradually reveals truth to the intellect through sensation. For thoughts, says Edward Carpenter, are only dying feelings. When we feel deep enough, that is, when we suffer enough, we seek the cause, and in seeking, find and grow. Sensations that cannot be endured are avoided or cured. We learn to choose instinctively the pleasurable and to avoid the opposite. This is our only conscious way of deciding what the ego wants. It is equivalent to Spencer's dictum, health-giving acts are pleasurable, and to Professor Elmer Gates' discovery that pleasurable emotions are healthful and the opposite are poisonous. The ego, which is a manifestation of unity, finds by this sensation of pleasure the best way to unfold its individuality. It is Emerson's wise and comprehensive advice: trust the current that knows its way. Ego above the law. By noting sensations, we discover regularity and coincidences that we call laws. In the materialistic worship of this fetish of law, sight is lost to the greater fact that spirit, and therefore the ego as a part of the undivided spirit, is itself law, and hence above all law.
Practical work. Here is a hint of the practical work of soul culture. It works with manifestation with the design of controlling manifestation. It recognizes soul not as something yet to be or that which is beyond conception, but as something that now is. It works with man as soul. Soul force or spirit is as thinkable, as real, and as workable as electricity. Affirming as an individual, I am the spirit, the soul culturist thinks spirit and lives spirit and manifests consciously the powers of spirit. He acts that which he affirms, lives that which he professes, and knows himself as spirit. No sickness. As spirit cannot feel pain or be sick or die, he knows, as an individual spirit, he cannot be sick or have pain or die. These conditions are to him only manifestations of different mental attitudes or states of consciousness. They are real to his consciousness if he will think of them, if he will recognize them, but they are not real to him as spirit. Whenever he changes his mental attitude and refuses to recognize them, they do not exist, for he, by recognition, becomes the creator of these conditions. They are the effects of his thinking.
Man his own creator of conditions. It is the same with all unpleasant conditions called sorrow, grief, trouble, worry, jealousy, with all that makes one unhappy. They are in man effects of his feeling or thinking. They are produced in him by suggestion as similar ones are produced in hypnotic subjects. Man is, therefore, his own creator. He can produce within himself, at will, either pleasant or unpleasant emotions, thus making himself at will happy or unhappy, well or sick, wise or foolish. Recognition. The first thing necessary for the development of this power is simply for one to recognize himself as spirit. Jesus, who was spiritually developed, must have meant this when he said, "He that believeth and is baptized is saved." For all the water of the river of life would run off of the believer without producing any effect, because by refusal to recognize the power, it would not exist for him. Small discharges of electricity kill, and extremely great ones are not felt. Even so, does this mighty power of spirit pass through one constantly unrecognized until sought for. Then it is found, as all else has been found, through recognition of sensation. Scientific faith. This is asking of only one that same faith which the scientist has when experimenting. He would not experiment if he did not believe in the possibility of finding. Give the same ready mind to spirit, and in that receptivity the recognition will come. Once recognition is, then all things asked for are possible. Desire. Next to recognition is desire. It is the attitude of true prayer, the heart's sincere desire, uttered or unexpressed. In desire, the way is open for the current that knows its way to flow unhampered.
Liberty. Liberty of spirit is thus won. Without this liberty, no spiritual growth. The last liberty to be won is the liberty of the sons of God, the liberty to act as spirit, independent of all external conditions. Ignorance and fear have fettered and imprisoned the soul with rites, ceremonies, customs, prejudices, laws, etiquette, conformity, policy, monetary considerations, social considerations, and hypocrisy, so that few dare to think their souls are their own, much less to say so, and, least of all, to live as soul demands. Be thyself. But he who would become developed in spirit must above all other things be free. Be thyself is the first command of soul culture. Hark to its prophet Emerson and his incomparable essay on self-reliance. Whoso would be man must be a nonconformist. Nothing at last is sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. Liberty is the way, and the only way, to soul growth. It is the way man has ever traveled. There never is a precedent for any progressive step. Freedom never dwells in old temples. Like the nautilus, she is building herself a new dwelling each successive morn. Freedom is the ever-growing stem of the tree of life. Conservatism is her grave, and the grave of all that is manly. Without liberty, man is dead. A slave lives in his place. If one would gain power to be destiny, he must be free. Effort. The next demand is effort. All effort here must be.
By physical effort, we can learn in the realm of vibration termed matter. By intellectual effort, learn in the intellectual realm. But spiritual things must be spiritually discerned. Methods of investigation in other fields are here of no use. Spiritual phenomena, or psychic, whichever term you please, occupy a field of their own and must be found by their own methods. Effort must therefore be made as spirit. That is, in recognition of himself as spirit, one must place himself in the mental attitude of receptivity and desire and be willing to receive whatever comes. In this negative attitude of mind, he waits for the ego to manifest as desired. Non-resistance. The next law is never antagonize anything. Never antagonize anything, opinion or condition, even in feeling. All is spirit, therefore all is good. Nothing but good can or does come to me, therefore I will not antagonize any manifestation, but let it work in me the good whereunto it was sent. For all the possible evil results will be those I make by doubting the goodness of unity in this manifestation, and, since I am my own fate, and since I make fate by deciding how to receive each manifestation, I decide this is good, for all is good. I thus do as he did who first taught me soul culture. Resist not evil, but overcome it in the large affirmation, all is good. I thus keep my mind quiet to perceive and reveal truth. Were I to contend, I would not see clearly, neither would I reveal the truth, but would conceive much error. Therefore, I will henceforth think only good, will never antagonize. Such must be the mental attitude of one who is anxious to lead the spiritual life. Demonstration. Demonstration must take the place of argument. Therefore, the next law of soul culture is never argue. Let your light shine, that men, seeing your good works, shall know you are spirit, shall know you love truth. Affirm spirit, and by living as spirit, demonstrate you are spirit. You live spirit by thinking spirit and by letting that thought control your life. Soul culture comes through doing. Here again comes in the thought of the wise teacher, I must be about my Father's business. My Father worketh hitherto, and I work. He that doeth the will of my Father, the same is my mother and sister and brother. If ye love me, keep my commandments. He always insisted that through conduct spiritual development is demonstrated. Never once did he ask, what do you think? Or what do you believe? Self-direction. The next rule is, intend your mind in the direction in which you wish revelation. One familiar with the terms of hypnotism will understand when I say, control the mind by autosuggestion. From the subconscious storehouse of all knowledge, the ego itself can thus be drawn whatever is desired in the way of wisdom. The mind can also thus be directed to the development of psychic faculties. These faculties take hold on infinity, both of time and space. Nothing is hidden from soul perception. All the soul's powers are comprised in two, so aptly stated by Emerson thus: the soul is the perceiver and the revealer of truth. To perceive and to reveal truth being all that the soul can do, yet, while the method of perception is ever one, there are many methods of revelation already recognized, and there may be many others to come in our future unfoldment. Perceptions are revealed merely as truth, and or they are revealed in terms of time and space. We thus get the names respectively of intuition and inspiration to designate the revelations of truth, of clairvoyance, and telepathy to designate those of space, of psychometry to designate those of time. In practice, these shade into each other as in ordinary life shade the results of the different senses. Life health. The first manifestation of spirit is life. Therefore, the first function we come to is health. All conditions manifesting less than a normal state of health are those of less health and not those of disease. They are the results of spiritual weakness. For some cause, spirit does not properly manifest through the body. The chief, if not the only difficulty, is the impediment placed on the manifestation of spirit by some false idea. Some affirmation of cant, of weakness, or some submission to conditions through belief in hereditary or in the impossibility of relief is the cause of ill health. There is no let to the current that knows its way. Therefore, the first care of the soul culturist is to let his spirit have its way in health. This is easy. Only let the body alone. Keep the mind off of it, and expect it to be kept by the Maker Spirit well. He is to think and affirm only health. Spiritual gifts. We have a number of recognized psychic powers, spiritual gifts, but I wish to add a few that are not generally so recognized. The first is music, the highest and purest expression of the soul. All art is purely spiritual, and the purer the art, the nearer to pure spirit. The more any attempt in art is removed from all considerations of life, except love for the art itself, removed from monetary considerations, from precedent, morality, etc., the purer the art and the more perfect the manifestation of spirit. Wagner is credited with the insight of saying, if we had real life, we should need no art. The love of the beautiful is the test of spiritual unfoldment. Beauty is divinity. Hence, all the fine arts are psychic in origin. Poetry is especially a psychic gift. It is the child of beauty and melody. Classification of psychic power. Thus, a classification of the psychic faculties, which it is the province of soul culture to develop, will include music, painting, sculpture, architecture, landscape, gardening, rhetoric, poetry, health, inspiration, intuition, clairvoyance, telepathy, prophecy, and psychometry. We here have a field comprising all there is in life worth living for, all there is to reward one for living, accepting the one thing that is above all others and above all classification, for that one thing is the very highest manifestation of life. It is the everlasting life, the pure life of the Spirit, dimly shining through the mist of error. It is love. Love. Love is the first and last expression of spirit. Love is its highest and purest expression. It is the highest of which the intellect can conceive. It is ever the controlling force in life. Each individual is controlled by his loves. There is no progress for him in any line until his love is moved in that direction. He then moves without solicitation. All spiritual development is made manifest through love. It is the barometer of life, recording in manifestation the progress of the soul's unfoldment. Love is all Paul declared it to be when he said, "The greatest of these is love." It is all Jesus declared when he gave the new commandment, "Love one another," thus making it the one condition to spiritual life. It is all he meant when he said, "God is love." To present human thought, love is the highest known or possible manifestation of power. It represents to us the most beneficent as well as the controlling force of the universe within man, and since it is such, it must be his God. It is the holiest as well as the most powerful of emotions. It is ever present and is the force out of which all the rest come. Thought is love reduced in potential and pitch. Ultimate power. The soul culturist, therefore, must deal with love as his ultimate power, just as the electrician deals with his ultimate power. He does this by methods as rational, recognizing it as the one force, the one manifestation of unity. He seeks in love alone to unfold his psychic powers. Speed of vibration. The intensity of the vibrations of light has been measured, but not by those of magnetism, for they are too swift for any conception of time to enter into the calculation of them. Thought is swifter than magnetism by multiplied vibration, but love is many times the multiplied vibration of thought. Love can be studied by its manifestation in sensation, as sound and light are studied and known. Love's pitch and octaves. Like any other forms in which unity manifests through vibration, love has its pitch and its octaves, and somewhere in the infinite scale each human life is placed. The only possible development of any life is to raise or lower its pitch, to increase or diminish its potential. How to do this, and how to transform love to thought and obedience to the mechanical law of conservation of energy, is the secret of the Sphinx of time shall yet reveal. Love of truth. There is one ever-present starting point in soul culture, love of truth. This love, it must not be forgotten, is power, as real as power is steam in the boiler. It is the power that manifests in the development of those faculties we desire. Love must be thought of as force, must be held in our consciousness as force, just as the electrician in the powerhouse holds in his consciousness force as his thought of electricity. Love of truth is our initial point. Love of truth is the power with which we work. God will not manifest himself to cowards, says Emerson. He cannot, if he would, manifest in liars, hypocrites, and slaves. Only to this extent that one is truthful, brave, honest, and loving, has he any independent spiritual life. All that he may seem to have is but the race accumulation for which he has no responsibility, and hence in which he has no real possession. He is but using the race and animal instinct instead of being, as he should be, an independent, self-controlled individual. To the extent that men manifest love, they are spiritual. As far as they control their love through desire for truth and goodness, they are human, are outgrowing the tiger in them and leaving the remnants of the ape behind. Safety. In this love of truth alone, it is safe to seek psychic unfoldment. To seek in any other love is to fall into what the occultists call black magic, which is the development of power without knowledge or guidance, is putting power into undeveloped man. This, like all undirected or wrongly directed power, injures temporarily the individual. The ultimate result, unfoldment, is, however, the same. But this road leads through, it may be, centuries of suffering. To seek in any other than love of truth is to repeat the scandals, the sufferings, failures, and complicated work of the Christian sects and of mediumship, or to sink into the intellectual follies of sectarian Christian scientists who have abandoned love of truth for love of certain expression of truth, or for a founder of a sect. Love of truth, pure and simple, is liberty, and without liberty, no independent life, no living truth. The law. To seek in love of money, power, fame, or any lesser motive than love of goodness and truth is to invite suffering and development through suffering. It is to sow corruption that one may reap the same. The law is, seek ye first the kingdom of good and its right living, then all spiritual growth shall be added unto you. There is no limit to human manifestation when once, by this means, the way is opened. One thus becomes an enlightened man. He lives in the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. The light is in himself. He lives neither by the borrowed light of his neighbors, nor of his century. Concentration. In this love of truth, let one concentrate on all of his thoughts and desires for a time each day. In that concentrated state of mind, let the soul be heard. After you have by desire and expectancy given it direction, let it have its way. In hypnotic terms, after you have given yourself command by autosuggestion, let the subconscious part of your being have its expression. All knowledge and power are either latent in the soul or lie behind the soul, ready, on opportunity, to flow into expression, and whenever they are let, they flow. This condition of letting is that of natural somnambulance, of the artificial somnambulance of hypnotism, that of the scientist when in the silence, of the Hindu in meditation, of the crystal gazer and the card reader. It is concentration. The thing upon which the gaze is concentrated, or whether or not there be anything, is unimportant. The mental state is all.
Involuntary concentration. This is identical with that natural condition of involuntary concentration in which the bookkeeper calculates in midst of noise, the editor writes, and the mechanic works. The one does it on compulsion of necessity till it becomes habit. The other does it with a predetermined purpose, and it will.
Such concentration is the key to success in every direction. Its opposite, diffusion, is the cause of all failure, be it failure in health, business, or love. It is the key to all occult and ancient mysteries. Practice. One must therefore practice concentration until it becomes not merely habit, but a new instinct. One must learn to rise above the life of sense, to ignore the coarser vibrations and the sensations that arise from them, known as the five senses, and to live in the finer sensations. That the hypnotic subject does this and opens the door to the storehouse of the subconscious demonstrates that every person, by the same process of suggestion, can do the same. In soul culture, we are seeking to give liberty of expression to whatever latent knowledge the conscious ego may desire and determine. The fundamental affirmation, I am spirit, means I am all that spirit is. The soul culturist affirms, since spirit is truth, love, power, wisdom, I am truth, love, power, and wisdom. I am any other possible manifestation that spirit is. Spirit is all this in potentiality. I may be all this in manifestation. I am part of indivisible spirit in spirit. I am an individual manifestation of spirit in spirit. Even as an electric spark can say, I am electricity in electricity, but I am also an individual manifestation of electricity, so I can say, I am spirit. How to consciously manifest. To manifest any of this latent wisdom and power consciously, one must believe he possesses and then try to manifest, even as he tried when a child, his powers of locomotion which his parents taught him he possessed, and believing he tried and found. Believing he can see, expecting to see, or at least hoping to see, one looks. Even so, hoping at least to see that which the external eye cannot see, let him who would see look, and in due time he shall say with the poet-artist William Blake, I assert that I do not behold the outward creation, and that it is to me a hindrance and not an action. I question not my corporeal eye any more than I would question a window concerning a sight. I look through it and not with it. And more, such an one shall see, as John saw, the spiritual city, not coming down from heaven, but all about him, in the midst of which he lives, as he lives with this cruder city of the senses, that is, he lives in the spiritual as he lives in the sense life, by sensation alone. He will have learned to recognize those finer sensations that come from the more beautiful and powerful, because more intensified vibrations of spirit. Becoming man. His world will not be merely that which is seen and felt by the ordinary dull man. It will be that of the refined, sensitive, coming man, who will feel octaves of vibrations not sensed by one who lives in the octaves of the senses. This finer universe will be as real to him as the harmony that the uneducated, non-musical ear cannot hear is real to the ear of the leader of the orchestra, as real as the sunset to whose vibrations the eye of the blind is not sensitive, is real to the eye of the artist. It is only a question of unfolded sensitiveness to the unseen, but ever-present vibration and the recognition of the response born within the soul. Scientifically attained. All this desired condition can be as scientifically developed and cultivated as have been the recognition of sound in music, of light in painting, of touch in blind, and of contact in society. By devoting a little time intelligently each day, less than it takes to make a musician, one may become clairvoyant, psychometric, or inspirational, and thus grow to the condition desired by Reverend John White Chadwick, a desire which is almost universal. It is beautifully prayed for in these words: I might be strong to turn my eyes away to where the eternal stars so plainly shine. Truth, beauty, good, and by that vision blessed, lifting my heart to make its clearness mine. Taste then, earth-bound, the everlasting rest.
This concludes Part 1 of Prosperity by Rix Militz. I have recorded Part 2 in a separate video because it's recommended that this part be studied and listened to until it becomes as familiar as the alphabet, so it'll be easier to listen to it as a separate video. The book says the principles will then be lived. The student will thus become an adept in the mystery of life and an artist in living.
If you received value from this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more audiobook videos. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. I'm sending you oceans of love and peace, and I'm wishing you success in all your life missions and purposes. See you soon.